Reactive training systems.
Well, that's it. That's my 3-step method that I use with my lifters, and you can use for yourself to avoid burning the candle at both ends in your training career. Hey everyone, this is John Garafano from Reactive Training Systems, and I'm here today to talk to you about, quite honestly, something that's very important and something I wish that was spoken more about, which is that training is only one of the inputs that actually determines your outcomes. So today, what I'm going to talk about is a way for you to assess yourself to see, are you burning the candle at both ends, and is your training sustainable? First, before we get into the self-assessment that I give to my athletes to assess training balance, I want to talk a little bit about myself for a moment. Several years ago, I was working full-time in the corporate world and working part-time as a coach for Reactive Training Systems. I had a not insignificant commute and I worked a lot of hours. Honestly, I don't even know how many. It was a lot. To my family, it felt like I worked all the time. I have a wife, I have 3 kids, and I would also pick up some part-time work on the side as a personal trainer. So my life was completely out of balance, but that never stopped me with training. And while most people might look at that and say, that's a strength, right? Like you kept training through all of that. I actually look at it as being completely out of balance. So here's a couple of other things that you should know. I slept only a few hours a night. I took in way more caffeine than anyone should, especially at my body weight. And I was generally unhappy. And what I started to see in my training was this trend line, a downward trend line of performance. And so I went to my coach. I had a conversation with him. My coach is Mike Tashir. And while we were talking, we realized this really isn't that balanced. It's definitely not something I could continue sustaining for a long period of time. And clearly the E1RM and my progress was showing that I might want to try something different. That's when Mike and I had an honest conversation, and him being my coach asked some real hard questions of me. And I came to realize I need to pull back. And that's when I decided to pull back my training frequency. We had to drop some movements, drop the training stress a bit. And quite honestly, I was really afraid. I was like, am I going to lose strength? Am I going to lose hypertrophy? Am I not going to be the best, most competitive athlete that I can be? You know what the interesting thing about all that is? None of that happened. In fact, I actually got better. Psychologically, I was turned on in training. I came to every training session wanting to train instead of dreading it. I wasn't training until late at night, impacting my sleep and then my mood the next day. And I wanted to make the most use of my training time because I pulled back on my frequency. And that was when I started to make the best progress that I've had in my entire training career. So that's it. That's my 3-step approach to assessing your training stress balance. 1, be honest. Be honest with you. First and foremost, you have to be honest. You have to be honest with yourself and your coach. Is your training really balanced right now? Do you feel like you're not looking forward to training? Are you experiencing more life stress outside of training than you normally do? Are you sleeping well? Do you have good, positive social relationships? Are you really psychologically tuned in during training, or are you just kind of punching the clock and looking forward to getting out of there? These are all really important things to look at. And another really important thing is, are you completing some sort of wellness questionnaire? Here at RTS, we encourage our athletes to use what's called TRACK, Training Recovery Assessment Computer, which looks at both short-term and long-term fatigue. And that gives us coaches some feedback about our athletes to see, are they more stressed and are they experiencing more fatigue than normal? The second thing is you need to be in control. And what I mean by that is you have to look at all these areas of your life. Look at your sleep, your nutrition, your hydration, your stress management, and see what you can optimize to get the outcome that you want in your training. So for example, if you're only sleeping 4 hours a night, is there a way for you to tweak your schedule and do certain things and say no to some other things so that you can sleep more? Are you able to create a nutrition plan for yourself? Are you able to spend time with positive social supports so that you feel connected and engaged with other people? And can you communicate with your coach or change your training so that you feel like it's manageable. And the third thing is you need to be you. What I mean by that is it's very common when you're an athlete and you're pushing yourself and you want to get better and better and better to look at your competition. And in some ways, that's actually quite healthy to look at your competition and be competitive. The problem is when you take your eyes off of your goal and you're focused on other people, you can sometimes lose track of where you are in your plan. And then you get caught in that comparison trap and you never feel good enough. And the problem with that is that becomes a psychological vicious cycle that can really eat away at your training engagement and your ability to perform in the gym and on the platform. One of the coaches at RTS, Ross Lepala, has a really awesome strategy that he uses leading into competition. One of the things that he does is he literally turns off and unfollows his competitors on social media. Why does he do that? Well, he needs to be focused on execution of his training and focused on executing his plan. And he knows that he may catch himself in that comparison trap if he keeps looking at his competitors. I would highly encourage you to do some sort of behavior like that. Really find a way to disengage from that comparison trap in any way that works for you. Also remember that there is nothing that says you have to train 4, 5, 6 days a week. There are many lifters out there that train 3 days a week and make fantastic progress. The key is you have to focus on sustainability for the majority of your training. With that being said, there are going to be periods of time where your training is going to be hard and you're going to be a bit unbalanced, especially if you're peaking into the peak meet of the year. But hopefully, that's a short period of time. You know it going in, you're prepared for it, and you're preparing the rest of your life around that. So during that period of time, can you go out as much socially? Probably not. Can you drink alcohol as much as you normally can? Probably not. You have to be focusing on sustainability for majority of your training, but know that when you're peaking into something that's really important, you're going to come out of balance. The key is to know that it's only short term. One of the things that Ross Lepala tells his lifters is, remember, you don't get stronger from training, you get stronger from recovering from training. I want to tell you a story about one of my lifters. So this lifter had been working with me for a few years, and he was a hard-working lifter, made a bunch of progress with me, and then suddenly out of nowhere, huge downturn in performance. So I reached out to him. I said, hey, let's have a meeting. He tells me that he's going through a breakup. He's putting his house on the market. He's looking to move halfway across the country, and he's looking to change jobs. When he told me that, I said, wow, that's a lot of life stress. There is no way that we can continue with the same level of training, the same number of days a week, and the same amount of stress given that situation. He just wasn't recovering. His sleep was poor and all those things. So what did I do? Well, the first thing I did was I pulled back. I made him go from 4 days a week down to 3. I reduced his stress, and I helped him to do some other things that he could focus on. I worked in some bodybuilding work. And before you know it, at the end of about 2 or 3 blocks after that, he hit all-time PRs on all of his lifts after about 3 months of having really bad downward trends. The point that I want to make here is that sometimes pulling back is the right decision. Remember, more is not better all the time. Better is better. So that's it. That's my 3-step approach to assessing your training stress balance. 1, be honest. Be honest with yourself and your coach. 2, be in control. And 3, be you. Now, if you'd like to learn more about the assessment that I give to my lifters, you can click the link in the description of this video, or you can go to reactivetrainingsystems.com and go to our articles section. And if you're looking for more in-depth help, consider hiring us for coaching or even for a consultation. We'd be glad to help you find the right training stress balance for you. And remember, training is only one of the inputs that determine your outcomes.